My name is Ed Nardi, Chair of the Natural Resources Commission, and I am calling this public meeting to order at 7 p.m. Tonight's NRC meeting will be a hybrid in-person and Zoom meeting. We have a microphone set up on the commission table, and plans will be projected through the TV monitor. If you're presenting via Zoom, please turn on your audio and microphone when it is time for you to speak. Following the presentation by the petitioner and questions from the commission, members of the public will have the opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment. Please identify yourself with name and address for the record. You can also raise your hand from your phone by dialing *9 and use *6 to unmute. All video screens will be turned off with the exception of any commissioners attending virtually and the current petitioner. Once the commission has acted on an application, the petitioner is free to leave the meeting. In the event of any technical difficulties, all matters on the agenda that have not been heard will be automatically continued to the November 1st meeting. Please note that the meeting is being recorded. At this time, I would ask the commissioners to introduce themselves. Bill?
Bill Cremeza.
Gary?
Gary Kleiman.
Sarah?
Sarah Grimwood.
And Nick.
Nick Pappas.
Thank you all. All right, so we'll move to the first item on the agenda, which is a public comment period limited to 10 minutes with 2 minutes allocated per speaker. And of course, this public comment is limited to items that are not on the agenda this evening. So do we have any public comment for this evening? All right, not seeing any. We'll move to the next agenda item, which is the approval of the August 9th, 2023 meeting minutes. I have just one small question for Karen that I passed
16.
along. Wow.
Yeah, it was 16.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I thought they looked great.
Yeah, I looked at them and had no
I usually
comments.
do. Bill, you good?
I wasn't attending the meeting, so
Oh,
I don't
thank
know.
you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good
Nick?
for my, yeah, no problem.
Okay, great. So if we could have
I
them,
see that we have
Oh.
somebody else entering, a few more people that may be interested in public comment.
all right, let's finish up this one in terms of the meeting minutes.
So I would move that we accept the meeting minutes of August 9th as written. 'Cause- Or was there one amendment? No. So as
Second.
written.
All right, I'll take the vote. Bill?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
All right, then I'm an aye as well. So we'll go back. There's a couple more people that joined the meeting. We'll go back to the public comment period. Is there anyone that would like to make a public comment about any item that is not on the agenda this evening? All right.
that your hand?
I think that's your hand, Delia, right?
That
Or
is
Kyle?
right.
Yeah, good.
Okay, good. All right, I don't see any. So we will continue to move on to the director's update.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me, commissioner comments. Any,
None for me.
Gary, Sarah,
Aye.
Nick, you good?
No.
Okay, no commissioner comments this evening. Sorry about that, Delia. All set.
Millbrook Terry enforcement order, you'll recall that the plantings in accordance with the enforcement order were supposed to be put in by today. I am working with the landowner's attorney and we have a revised date of the planting plan, the modified planting plan to be submitted by this Friday. And then plantings in by October 27th.
Good, it's progress.
Great.
And that was, the attorney, being an attorney, a lot of caveats, but
Yeah.
that's what the plan is now. So
Good.
I hope we stay on,
Good. Hey, Delia, one question was to clarify the storage aspect of it as well.
CPW is reviewing the compensatory flood storage.
Okay,
So we
thank
should
you.
have an answer on that in the next couple of weeks.
Great.
That's great. The Warner's Ponds removal preliminary design, we will have our first community meeting on November 8th. 7 p.m. at the select board hearing room, and it will also be by Zoom. And every postal patron in Concord will receive this mailing. So the purpose of the meeting is to review all of the alternatives that have been evaluated and implemented since the mid-90s, and talk with the community, see if there are other alternatives. We have the one from John Coleman for the side channel, see if there are others that people would like us to consider.
Evaluated, yeah.
Good.
And I did been trying to coordinate with the scout group, and I will be scheduling a meeting with the Scout Troop 132. They're the main one that uses, there's others. If there are any commissioners who want to join that, just let me know and I can coordinate that scheduling with
Okay.
whoever is interested.
Is that gonna be a meeting here or somewhere?
I TBD,
Okay.
so in my response to them, it was basically we can do it in person or we can do a Zoom, whichever is most
Sure.
beneficial, and this is with the kids too, so I don't think it'll be anything too late.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm not sure if it would be during the day or how, so I'll let you guys
Okay,
know what
that'd
that
be
looks
Would you
like.
like one of us to be there, or does it
I
matter?
think it's great, I mean, I think, is the way that the Scout House represented it, I think is right, that they're obviously Scout Islands, they use that as their crossing over. As part of that tradition, but they're also, as scouts, they are very interested in ecology.
Yeah, sure.
So, I forwarded a dam removal workshop.
Oh, yeah,
around-
yeah, that's,
I know, it looks really good,
Yeah.
and Bert and I have signed up for it, and
Yeah.
Registered too, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking at my schedule, I might be able to.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
great.
Good education.
And then also not related to Warner's specifically, but tangentially is the Giroux project. The engineering department is taking that over from facilities, and they have got an approved change order with the contractor and an extension, and that extension is through December 31st. So the sill fence, we asked them to repair that. That's been repaired. And so we anticipate that work is going to be, starting imminently and completed within the next couple of months.
Great.
Punkatasset Preserve, that work is continuing, and so we'll head it up. Another volunteer effort out there today at the potato patch. And so if you think as you're walking towards Hutchins Pond down the main trail and that big mass of invasives, there's, some nice trees in there, some not so nice trees, but, there's some decent trees covered in, bittersweet and honeysuckle and multiflora. So the first step, well, there's been a number of efforts ongoing, and at this point now you can actually see the trees.
Huh.
There's a stone wall
Nice.
that probably is retaining for that path that goes down. So it looks really good. We have to figure out what to do with that pile of invasives. And the conservation land walk, we will be doing a walk on October 25th at 10 a.m. Old Calf Pasture, and I think we'll probably look to limit it to a dozen people, just so it's a manageable group.
Mhm.
So if people are interested, just email Karen, and 10 a.m. I think, did I say that?
October 25th. What day of the week is that?
Wednesday? That's a Wednesday. Yes, it's a Wednesday. I don't got it. Well, we can, when we do the next one, we'll coordinate a day that is a good day for you.
The day.
That's it for me.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Dina. All right, so we've got a couple of continuous this evening. Sir, you want to do the first couple?
Sure, yeah. So I move that we continue to November 1st without discussion. An NOI for Nabadini at 154 Southfield Road, DP file 1371641, and an NOI for 768 Elm Street, DP file 1371650.
Second,
Thank you. And the vote, Bill,
Aye.
Gary,
aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
and I am an I as well. I'll take on the next one. One more.
Oh, I did both.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Oh, I'm sorry.
You did too.
Jeez, I am just. Thank
The
you.
next
I
one
thought
is
I was
continue.
going mad there.
Okay,
Okay.
so the first continuance to be heard this evening. Notice of intent for 166 Commonwealth Ave, Concord LLC, DEP file 137-1643. So, John, are you going to be walking us through?
Yeah, I'll walk you through
Yeah.
where we are.
Thank you.
With me tonight is the property owner, Joe Soberg, and Oliver Guzman from Spruhane is the project engineer. He's also on the call. Basically, DEP had a comment regarding the stormwater system. We provided revised plans with the necessary materials to DEP. We have not heard back from DEP yet. Basically, as a result of input from planning, the project has been slightly modified. The building footprint is about the same. The restaurant has been eliminated. Additional residential units have been added, and the small scale retail is proposed to be retained. The parking lot and the access and egress have been reconfigured at the southern end of the lot. There's now two entrances, and well, there's an exit and an entrance exit off of Commonwealth Avenue. So there's
John,
a,
do you have a copy of this so we
I was
can
gonna
see
say-
it? Can you share
Okay.
that?
do you want me to
Open it
share the
to-
screen?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah, that'd be
Okay.
helpful. Thank
Yep,
you,
one
John.
second. Do you see the plan?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
you.
Okay, again, the project's been revised due to comments from planning. The the restaurant's been eliminated, the small scale retail on the first floor has been retained, and a couple additional residential units have been added where the restaurant was going to be located. The parking lot at the southern end of the site, there's now, I believe it's access and egress and an exit only with a right turn only coming off onto Commonwealth Avenue. And the walkway has been reconfigured, and it's a pervious paver walkway as was requested by the commission. I'll flip to the landscape plan in a couple of seconds, but that's been revised as well to include significantly more woody plantings and less lawn at that end of the site. The planning board has been continued, I believe, till November 1st to discuss this project. They're reviewing the plan still, and I believe they sent the stormwater out for peer review. And let me go to the landscaping plan. And as I indicated, significantly more woody plant materials are proposed. We're proposing to take down 5 trees along the river. There are Norway maples and catalpas, and they're in poor condition. There was an arborist report included with the notice of intent filing. We're proposing significant woody plantings along the river and additional landscaping elsewhere on the site. As a result of the project reconfiguration, there's about 918 square feet less impervious surface on the site compared to the plan that was originally submitted, and about 918 square feet of additional landscape and green space on the site as a consequence of the plan revision. We still comply with the performance standards for land subject to flooding and riverfront area. The building has been kept out of the 25-foot buffer zone. A portion of the building is in the 50-foot, but basically, except for a narrow strip along the retaining wall, the entire site is paved or building under existing conditions. So this represents an improvement over existing conditions. Going to go back to the site plan. Again, there's a stormwater infiltration system that handles roof and driveway runoff at the southern end of the site. The balance of the site, the northern end of the site is a permeable paver walkway which will infiltrate, and vegetation which will infiltrate. So it's a significant improvement because under existing conditions, most of the site just flows directly towards the river. So that wraps up the summary of the changes since the prior meeting. Are there any
John, I have a
questions?
question for you. This may or I know this is not your area. What happens to the walkway, the trail, once it leaves your property? Is there a trail? Is there a walkway there from that point north?
There is
Yeah.
there is a paved pathway to the east of the site.
By the Neshoba Brook Bakery? Okay, all right,
Yep.
okay. So that whole area in there, is there parking back there too? Do you know?
There's no parking. It's basically this walkway
Okay,
and vegetation. I'll go back to the landscaping plan. There's no parking proposed back there.
yeah, not for you, I understand, yeah.
The only
But-
parking is up here.
Isn't that where their dumpsters?
I think their
The
dumpsters are
dumpsters
back
are
in
there.
that
The
corner.
dumpsters are back there.
So
okay.
will there be access to those dumpsters somehow around the back of your
It
building?
looks like if you go back to the plan, there might be a drive access to
Yeah,
it,
Okay, okay,
yeah, in between.
20 feet or. I
Mhm.
don't know.
okay.
Hey, John, I had a couple of quick questions for you.
Yeah.
So to the north side where the walkway is and the plantings, and that's, you know, on a heavy rain, I know it's all sheeting, you know, towards the river and over the retaining wall. Just curious if there's any steps that you could take to, you know, if it rained 2 or 3 inches and there's a lot of push there, you know, is there mulch in those beds? Is it grass? But I don't think on a really heavy rain, you want a lot of stuff washing off into the river. Anything you could perhaps suggest, like, did we do something along the Neshoba?
Yeah,
The
from your
Sugar
bakery,
Bakery, there was that sort of
Did a
cordon,
step down.
it was a base, there was like those cordon steel edge,
Corten,
yeah.
Yeah, like a little curbing or something.
Right, so it basically retained, and we wouldn't.
Yeah.
Want to see mulch in that naturalized area, we would want it to be really sort of a, you know, rather than a landscape
Barrier.
feature, we
Mhm.
want it to
Mhm.
be just a naturalized buffer.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Right,
But I'm
right,
just concerned about if there's a big heavy rain
Right.
push,
Mm.
it's all just kind of going over the.
Yeah.
yeah,
the-
have
the-
you
the
thought about,
wall.
John, I know that this is there's a landscape architect that's. Also involved and not on the call, but has there been any thoughts that you're aware of that's been given to that?
No, typically we wouldn't put mulch in these kinds of beds. We
Yeah, that didn't
are actually
apply, but-
lowering the elevation in part of this to provide some compensatory storage. So there's additional flood storage, so some of that area might be below the top of the wall at this point.
Yeah,
When you take the
yeah,
grade down a little bit.
Yeah, maybe you could
Uh,
just look at that condition and maybe take a look at what Neshoba Brook has, right, adjacent to you. And maybe there's something along those lines, simple to do and.
Right,
to-
or if that top of wall, you know, if you can just make sure that that top of wall is, you know, 4 inches above grade or something like that, so that it acts with the
Yeah.
same.
I thought that's what they did at the Sugar Brook, no? You're saying that they have a
Actually
steeple,
installed a little barrier,
yeah,
yeah.
okay.
They might not have, they didn't have that kind of room to work
They
with
didn't
either.
have that
They were
room. Yeah.
really tight,
All right,
so.
Yeah.
Alternatively, we could take the grade down adjacent to the wall 4 inches and just use the
Yeah.
existing wall rather than adding anything in the floodplain.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah,
That's good.
That'd be a good option.
Yeah.
And John, just last question for me, it might be, I'm just not sure. Obviously, you know, you're removing a building, building a larger building, which, you know, foundations and whatnot, so some heavy work there. Just curious if anybody has looked at the retaining wall to the river. Just make sure that's in reasonably good shape, because, you know, the last thing you'd want to have happen with a lot of heavy equipment and machinery up maneuvering around there is for something to happen to that retaining wall. So just a question, if anybody's put some eyes on it.
Yeah, we can certainly have someone address that before construction starts.
Okay. Yeah, I think it'd be very helpful if you could have a structural guy take a look at that, and maybe it's a letter report or memo, just so everybody involved is comfortable with what's gonna potentially come in terms of the development.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commission? Nick, you good? Okay, so I guess we're gonna, oh, please.
So I just have a question on the massing of the buildings. I know that you've got an additional 900 square feet of impervious, but actually, if you can leave that plan up for just a second, John.
Okay.
You know, the amount of, this is, 12 units of residential, and there's, other than the roof deck, there's no space on the ground for anybody to have any, any amenities, other than that path. So how is the project contemplating where residents will go if they wanted to have a barbecue or, you know, to sit in a bench somewhere, or, I mean, I know that there's the roof deck and there's some, you know, proposed gardens up there, but it just, you know, that 25-foot no disturb zone is, you know, that is a no disturb zone. So, you know, following this project, the commission is not going to be approving future amenities that the residents may be inclined to be requesting. And I'm just curious what thoughts have been put towards that.
Well, that's more of a planning board issue on sort of outside of my my purview. But I assume it's just gonna be largely the roof deck because we had sought to put some material benches or whatever in this area and it was suggested that we not do that. So that's how this plan was
Where would you
arrived
be
at.
proposing benches?
Yeah, it's
There's nowhere to put anything.
Fairly tight site, I
Right.
think.
Yep.
Very tight site.
So my point is that if you have a smaller construction, you have more flexibility for amenities that, you know, future residents are going to be interested in.
You know, I'll make the applicant aware of that comment.
Thank you. All right, so I think with that, you do have a trip to the ZBA, I think, right? Or planning board, and then ZBA. So I guess we'll just hold this over in case any changes come forward. We don't want to close this out. So, continued November 1, John, for the moment.
Okay, I think the planning board meeting is that night, if I'm not mistaken.
uh,
No,
No, that's
It wouldn't be the same night.
it
Would
would
it?
be probably the day before, because we're Wednesday, the planning
Yeah,
board's usually Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Let's see when the next one is.
we can continue on a little further than that if you'd like as well.
Right,
yeah,
so
good.
if,
It-
when are you meeting with planning?
I was told it was November 1st, but that's probably not the correct date if they don't meet on the Wednesday night, so.
Well, it's either the 31st or it's, you know, so why don't you continue to November 1st, and then if you haven't met with planning, then we'll just, you can let us know that you'll seek a continuance to a future meeting.
Delia,
Yes.
Tom Falwell, the November 1st meeting is actually with the West Concord Advisory Committee.
Oh.
And then we're meeting with the planning board after that. I don't,
Okay.
looking at my calendar at home here, but I don't see the date on there, but I think it's that next week, if I'm not mistaken, but the
Okay.
first is the advisory committee
Okay.
sit down.
So,
21st.
so we actually, because of the Thanksgiving, we are meeting on the 15th.
Okay.
That
Why
would
don't
mean
we-
material,
yeah.
that would mean materials in by November 3rd.
So do you just want to hold the 15th for the moment and always can push it out?
Yeah,
And I
we
think
can push
that
it up.
makes
It
sense.
really, yeah, again, the whole thing is, there's a planning board requested a peer review of the stormwater. So depending upon what comes back from that, we might have to continue
Yeah.
beyond the 15th, but let's take the 15th and go from there with that at this point.
Okay, thank you, John.
Yep.
Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, bro.
All right, so, let's see, the next application this evening. Oh, I did not, so let's go back. Before we close that out, any public comment regarding that application? Thank you, Sarah. Okay, seeing none? Now we'll move on.
Okay, so
All right.
November 15th.
Yes,
Very good. Thank you.
thank
Thank you.
you.
Thanks.
All right, our next continuance this evening, notice of intent, 1024 Main Street, DEP file 137-1634.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. Dominic Maringo here from Solitude Lake Management. Sonia Cray is also here from Property Manager.
Good evening.
Good evening. So we did have a site visit with Delia on August 31st, and we did revise our NOI addendum to adjust a few things, and also based on some conversations during the site visit, we also added a couple elements to the project. So I don't know if I guess I'll highlight kind of the changes if you guys want to go back and discuss any of the
No,
stuff.
I think highlighting the changes would be fine, Dominic.
Okay. So we did go out and physically measure with a GPS and measuring tape. But we did measure and created a new figure of the no-mow buffer, the existing no-mow buffer, and that was on the background of the site plan of the property. So hopefully that is a little
Do you have
more
that
clear.
plan? I'm sorry, Dominic, do you have that
Sure.
plan available? that
I
you can
do, yeah, I
provide?
can.
That would
get
be
on.
good, or I actually just found it.
Yeah, I have it. So can everybody see that?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Trying to get this thing out of the way. There you go. So
Dominic, can
this
you make
is
it larger? Is there any way of making that larger?
sure. Yeah, just give me a second. Get rid of all these other windows. Actually, I have a larger version at the end of the. I put a picture of the map in the text, and then we attached. So this is the no-mow buffer. The existing area was measured more accurately following the site visit. We also found a number of spots around the ponds where we all agreed that there was a potential to expand the no-mow buffer, and those are the red hatched areas. This is the largest one here, but there's also some and a number of other locations around all of the ponds. So that hopefully explains and documents the no-mow buffer a little better. So the other, actually, while I got it here, the other thing is we did talk about the sampling. So we are going to conduct early season, late season sampling of the ponds, and we also created a sampling station map to make it more clear and defined. So the blue water drops located at the center of each of the ponds will be the sample locations for the ponds, and those will be sampled once in the beginning of the season and once at the end of the season. We also agreed on four stormwater locations that will be sampled during 2 rain events each summer, and those are shown with the yellow water drops, and these 3 of them are coincident with some of the largest culverts that drain the property, and one sample is over here on the right. We thought it was important to sample a stream coming in from off the property, as that obviously will influence the water quality of the ponds. So getting a reading there we felt was important. So that is the sampling.
Also, Dominic mentioned the sediment sample.
Yes, yep, that was in the original addendum, but yes, we are also going to collect a sample from the sediment sample from each pond, and that will be tested for total phosphorus, and also will be sampled what we call phosphorus fractionation, which will break down the total phosphorus into the separate forms of phosphorus. So that would be loosely absorbed phosphorus, or phosphorus that's dissolved in the pore water of the sediment, iron-bound phosphorus, which is a common binder of phosphorus in the sediment, is iron. And then there's metal-bound or metal oxide-bound, aluminum, calcium-bound sediment. The final fraction is organic phosphorus, or that phosphorus that has yet really to break down. It's still from organic material that has not broken down yet. And then the rest of the phosphorus, the balance, is kind of mineralized phosphorus. So we'll be getting that information, which I think will help us understand how much of the phosphorus is potentially coming from within the ponds themselves, in addition to the discharge from the stormwater. So I think that will help us complete the picture and give us a better understanding of where the phosphorus is coming from. And these are the sample, these are the analyses that will be done on the samples. For the pond samples will be everything down to E. coli, and the stormwater samples will be everything, including the total and suspended solid, total dissolved and total suspended solids will be tested. So in terms of the two things that we added based on conversations at the site visit, the property manager has agreed to pursue that. There's no finalized schedule on when this will happen, but there's currently 3 fountains in the pond. These yellow dots are existing fountains that are in the pond. So the fountains serve to aerate, circulate, oxygenate the water, which is has obviously a number of benefits. The idea, the addition here is that would look to at some point in the future extend the aeration by adding a fountain in the lower pond, which currently has no aeration or no fountain systems, as well as add a submersed dissolved air aeration system in the upper pond. I do have so obviously the complete design has not been decided on yet, but this would be an example. Would be the likely product here for the diffused aeration system in the upper pond. It's basically a small compressor housed in a cabinet which feeds air down to these diffuser manifolds that are placed on the bottom of the pond, and the compressed air is then bubbles up through these discs, creating a stream of small bubbles, which helps to move the water as well as transfer oxygen to the water. The fountain is a typical high volume fountain, which moves a substantial amount of water, which helps to in the same way oxygenate and circulate the water. My understanding is that, you know, these would be the systems that would be installed. I think the only thing that's really up in the air would be the actual location of the control panel, or the control boxes for the fountain and the compressor cabinet, and if any electric lines need to be dug down to the pond. I understand that the commission that would entertain a condition in the order that those specific details would be approved through the staff prior to installation. And the final, which I expect may have some questions about, is we did talk about. So obviously we're all the stormwater sampling, pond sampling, and one of the things I did talk to Delia about was starting this year in our end of season report, is to really take all of the data that we've collected over the years at these ponds and kind of combine them together in a table, in an Excel table, so that we can see and form them in a way that it's easier to see trends and to see historical data for one sample site. We'll be able to produce graphs, figures that will help us understand this. But and that may lead to potentially some things that we can do with the stormwater infrastructure. But another option here is we do know that we do have elevated phosphorus levels. And again, those are coming from the stormwater infrastructure on property, also coming in on the stream, entering the property at the top of the upper pond, but it also could be coming from the sediments themselves. So a common lake management technique, a pond management technique is nutrient remediation using alum. Alum is a product that's used very commonly in drinking water treatment plants, wastewater treatment plants, to remove phosphorus and also to settle out suspended solids. We've used it pretty successfully at a number of lakes and ponds, really across the country, but specifically here in Massachusetts, we have historically done annual alum treatments at Doug Pond in Natick, Indian Lake in Worcester, which actually just put in a alum dosing station at one of their major tributaries to Indian Lake to treat the inflow as it's coming into the lake, and it's been used at Oldham Pond and Pembroke. I could name many of them, and there's also been some higher dose alum treatments designed specifically to also inactivate not only the phosphorus in the water column, but also phosphorus in the sediment. So we do like the idea, you know, even if we do or are able to implement some infrastructure improvements to try to reduce some phosphorus getting into the lake. I think an important part of this is potentially going to be the use of alum to address the phosphorus that's already in the ponds. It's been a tested, widely used technique since the late 1970s. Again, it's very commonly used in drinking and wastewater treatment. So the idea would be to treat the ponds, you know, based on the monitoring and based on the phosphorus levels. Try to implement alum treatments at the pond to bind with that phosphorus permanently and lower the concentrations of phosphorus in the ponds, which in turn would help to prevent algae growth, specifically cyanobacteria growth in the ponds. So that is the plan would be to, as needed, treat with a dose of 1 part per million of aluminum, and that is a very common low dose treatment, and again been used successfully. So I'm sure folks, that's really all the changes that we have made to the addendum. I think we've hopefully come to a point where we can come to an agreement on the program, but I'd certainly be happy to answer any questions at all that you may have on any of the elements of the program at this point.
Thank you, Dominic. Appreciate the overview. So I guess tackling the aluminum question or alum. I know in our write-up you had concerns about that, right? In other words, you thought they were, I guess that the phosphorus is still at an elevated level and not ready for the introduction of that type of.
That's what it
concern.
appears. I mean,
Yeah.
in the Massachusetts pond and lake management document, it says it's appropriate to bring in alum when phosphorus has been reduced to an acceptable level, and it doesn't say what an acceptable level is, but the phosphorus in these ponds is still above reportable concentrations, and so that just leads me to be cautious. And then also because it is known to be toxic, and I don't know how severe it is. I'm not a lake.
Yeah.
I'm not a lake manager, but it's toxic to zooplankton, and zooplankton do eat algae. So it seems like you're further unbalancing a system. And so I think I wouldn't recommend at this stage until there's a little bit more, what Dominic mentioned. We talked about sort of creating data in a way that's more easily able to see what the trends and patterns are.
Yeah.
And so if we, these are 3-year permits, they can be amended, they can be extended. So if it's something where there's more data that is, I think, informative, that recommends that.
Yeah.
I think that might be the time to do it.
Yeah, no, I think that probably makes sense to get that data, because as I recall in the very early conversations, some of that data was missing from the previous years, or just the reports got lost in the shuffle or whatever, but I guess, and to Dominic's point, laying it out on the Excel spreadsheet and
Right.
much more easy to read those trends and
Right.
where things are going, so. So commission okay with that
That sounds
recommendation,
right to me.
Delia?
Yeah, it does.
Be nice to get a little bit more data, and then, to your point, right? Things can be amended.
Right.
In the future.
That's,
Is Concord Green okay holding off on alum treatments for the time being?
That's fine. I mean, I was unaware of what Delia just said, so obviously I am not a lake expert either. But yeah, why do that if it's not going to add to the health of the water? So if we can get the phosphate down, then, and it seems more reasonable at that next, in a couple of years, then we can revisit it.
yeah, that's perfectly fine. Just in defense of the technique, we're fine with withdrawing it.
Right.
But I just do want to say it, the GEIR specifies that not that the pond levels of phosphorus should be down to an acceptable level before you use alum, but that you've done all that you feasibly can to reduce the watershed inputs of phosphorus, and then use alum to get it down to the acceptable levels, because the acceptable levels are for phosphorus, depends on who you talk to, but 20 to 30 parts per billion of phosphorus is typically the level of concern. When it gets above 20 to 30 parts per billion, that's when it can start to cause more frequent and more likely to be cyanobacteria, blue-green algae blooms. Yeah, just want to clarify that, but I 100% we do 100%. It was a last minute addition, so we understand the commission's concerns and are happy to withdraw that element of the program until we get a better look at the data.
Okay, thank you. I think it makes good sense all around. Bill?
I have a question, just one more question, and I may have missed this. Are there gonna be markers or no-mow markers around the areas around the pond?
No,
haven't
we were. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Delia.
No, you go ahead.
I didn't. We had not talked about putting markers. So
Yeah,
the
what we included in the order, that would be a lot of markers.
See a lot of
Yeah.
markers.
A lot of
Okay,
markers.
okay.
So what we put into the order was that there are measurements taken every 100 feet or so that measure the width, so that it can be captured a little bit better, so that we can look at the plan of the,
Okay,
where we are hoping to see an expansion, and, I mean, it's
big,
so tight,
yeah.
that we won't ever achieve our 25-foot
Right.
no disturb zone there.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Gary, Sarah, questions? Nick?
Oh, nothing.
Okay, no, I think I'm good as well. Thank you for the explanation and the ads.
I have just one
Yes.
comment that on the specials, we should have included, and I didn't include in the specials that we want to see that sediment sample from each pond. So we'll draft that, so it will be just one additional special.
So it would be a 41st condition.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Any
All set, Gary.
public comment?
Oh, any public comment? Boy, I gotta write that down. Not seeing any? No public comment? I think you're good to go.
Yeah. So then I would move that we close and issue order of conditions for 1024 Main Street, DEP file number 1371634, with findings A through C, standard conditions 1 through 20, and special conditions 21 through 41, including the condition Delia just mentioned.
Second.
Thank you, Sarah, and the vote. Bill?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well.
Thank you, Dominic.
Great, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good evening. All right, the next application we'll be hearing is for 256 Bedford Road, NOI DEP file 137-1652. And Kyle, you're gonna walk us through the updates?
Yeah, so I'll walk the commission through the updates. So based on the last,
Would you put up, excuse me, Kyle, would you mind putting up
Yeah.
the plan?
of
Sharing the
course,
plan with us? Thank you.
can everyone see this?
Yeah, maybe you could blow up maybe the plan section more so. We don't need
Yeah.
probably the details as much. Then we'll be able to see it.
Sorry, having technical difficulties.
Ah, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, just to go over the updates. So based on the last meeting, we have increased the amount of impervious that we're removing in the driveway. We included the existing and proposed deck within the calculations now, so we increased the removal of the driveway. So the total removal is 442 square feet. So it's going to be an improvement of 44 square feet of impervious on the site. The infiltration basin is now smaller. It's a deeper infiltration galley, and it still accounts for the 100-year storm. We also upped the number of plantings up to 18 shrubs, 4 to 6 feet on center, minimum of 36 inches in height, and 5 to 10 fern plantings. Yeah, those are the updates. And Kevin is also in the audience. I don't know if he has any additional things to add.
Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, some of the other updates were the details that were requested, include the silt fence and the tree protection detail, as well as the table in the top right corner. That's the buffer zone breakdowns for both the wetland and the riparian buffer. So that's basically summarizes the updates. I provided a memo and coordinated that with the town. So yeah, again, the decks remodeled was impervious. The system was shortened, so that by removing the vehicular area above it, that allowed us to reduce the amount of cover, so which I changed the chamber types to a slightly taller Coltec, which I think again allowed the side by side 2 rows of chambers and just shortened the system in total. So I believe that was one of the comments at the last meeting.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. And just, if you could just point out the planting area, is that, is it,
Kyle, do you want to show the plan that has the planting
I
area?
just didn't see it on this particular.
I don't have it on this computer, but I'll zoom in really far into the area just to show it.
You just point out the area. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I just didn't see it. That's all.
I can actually pull up the markup that Kyle had shared if that's easier.
That'd be great, Kevin. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that area there.
Ah, okay. So you can go right over the Caltex with small plans and stuff. Yeah, great. Thank you very much.
The side of the garage.
All right, I think it's.
I have a general question,
Yeah, please.
and I wasn't here for the other meeting. I'm just curious, given your location, if the house couldn't tie into town sewage.
I'm not sure if you don't have a tie into sewer existing that you can tie into.
I don't know. I mean, it's right,
It's
it's right there.
If you, so, and I could have this wrong, but my understanding is that if there's sewer on the road and it's an existing house, that you have the ability,
Oh, you don't have to.
but you don't have to. That's my understanding, but
Huh.
uh,
I just know in my neighborhood where we have sewer,
yeah,
it was, if you have it, you can, you know, if you renovate or build new, you can get it back, but if you
Okay.
don't have it.
you can't.
So the neighbor put in a septic system because they had a old cesspool system. and
Yeah.
They couldn't tie in.
So they couldn't tie in. Okay, so I could be wrong about that.
It might be like town areas in town. I don't know.
And I didn't receive any, okay.
Someone's not.
This is Peter Dawes Haberly. I had drawn the plans for the addition and renovation. We looked into that, and oddly enough, that's one of the very few spots in Concord where there isn't a sewer. The pipe comes down one side of the road from the town, and then it actually comes towards that from from Bedford side. Weirdly enough, it just doesn't go past the front of the house because, you know, tying into septic, sewer would have been much better than
Yeah,
putting in
yeah.
a whole new septic system for sure.
Okay, amazing.
Thanks for the explanation, Peter.
Yeah, thank you.
Gary, Sarah, any questions? Nick?
No, looks good.
Okay, I think any public comment regarding this application? See any? All right, seeing none, Bill?
So I move that we close the hearing for DEP file 137-1652 at 256 Bedford Street. And issue the following order of conditions with findings A through C, standard conditions 1 through 20, and special conditions 21 through 55.
Second.
Thank you, Sarah. And we'll take the vote. Bill?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Thank you all. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you.
All right, so extension requests.
That was, actually, they have pulled that late this afternoon. That was taken, that extension request and the COC for 65 Madison are both tabled to a future meeting.
Okay, so the partial and the extension. All right. So I guess we're dropping down to the remaining COCs.
The first one is for a pool construction that was partially within the floodplain, and comp storage has been provided. Conditions have been met, and that one is ready to go.
All right, you want to do all three together if you want to?
Yes.
So the next two are for, and I apologize, I don't remember which one is which with the file numbers. One of them was for some restoration work around a vernal pool at the country club. That's all taken care of. They have their signs up to basically keep out signs. And the other was for some plantings, following tree removals, some mitigation plantings. All taken care of. These were submitted a while ago. They just needed to fix up their as-built and they're good to go.
Okay. Gary, you want to do a motion on that?
Are we missing one?
We're not doing McNeely.
Oh,
That's
I'm
partial.
sorry.
That's
Okay.
part
Oh, I
of
forgot
the
the one we
extension.
missed.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
65 minutes drive is pulled. So I move that we close and issue COCs for 198 Southfield Road, DEP file 1371469, for 246 Ornac, DEP file 1371132, and DEP file 1371212.
Second.
Thank you, Bill. And we'll take the vote. Bill?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Thank you. And moving on to other business. First one up is 10A Attawan Road for confirmatory vote.
Good evening, Commissioners. Tom Falwell. I represent a number of the abutters to that parcel. I apologize. I might need to ask Delia to give me some dates because I didn't get back to the office this afternoon to get my file. So unfortunately, I don't have all the materials. But the gist of this is that that parcel was deeded to the town. My memory, Delia, was back in the 30s, I think it was. The deed itself.
Yeah.
The deed itself did not specifically say that it was for a particular purpose. And what happened thereafter was periodically this parcel would be on somebody's list for potential housing sites and so forth. And it was determined back in the around 2002, I think, Delia, if I'm not mistaken, that the sorry,
2001.
That the commission, the selectmen voted to recognize that there's a conservation parcel and transferred it to the jurisdiction of the commission. But that didn't, from our standpoint, didn't really close the issue entirely in terms of recognizing that it is would be protected as for conservation purposes. Subsequently, we found actually a letter was found that from the Wheeler family that specifically said that it was for deeded for open space, and that was not that wasn't available years ago until somebody did some due diligence and found the letter. So it's clear that it's protected or should be protected as protected open space based upon the letter that supplemented the deed itself that expressed the actual intent of the Wheeler family and deeding it to the town. So I reached out for Delia a while back, and we put our heads together to try to find out a way to actually put this to rest and make and tie it up a little bit tighter. And Delia consulted with town council, and they decided that they could do a confirmatory deed from the town to the town, which would transfer it specifically and to the town, the NRC's jurisdiction, but recognize that it's for open space and so forth. And that's what we're planning to do. And that would be presented to the selectmen at a later date for their vote. And once that deed was recorded, we'd put the hopefully the matter to rest on a permanent basis, so that we'd see that wonderful triangular field would remain as it is now. When there's actually been discussions with one of the abutters, the Winstanleys, about putting up a sign that recognizes it as Wheeler Field and memorializes that. And I think that's the sum total of it. Is it, Delia? If I'm forgetting something, you can help me out.
You hit it all, Tom. Nice job. Thank
Well,
you.
my memory's better than I thought. Thank you.
So specifically, is there just a motion or just?
Yes, so motion to accept the deed and recommend approval to the select board.
Okay. As simple as that, with the address, the
Yes.
Attawan Road Triangle, if you will.
Yeah.
So I move that we confirm the deed and accept the parcel at 10A Attawan Road and recommend as such to the select board.
Second.
Thank you, Bill. And we'll take the vote. Bill?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. All right. Thank you, Tom.
I'll even pay the $1. It's a good deal.
Yeah, there it is.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'll follow up with you once I have a time for the
Great, thank
select board.
All right, next item up is the Hayward Meadows Stewardship Committee appointment.
Yes, John Thompson. So Sandy Smith has been a longstanding member of the Hayward Meadows Stewardship Committee and a member of the Battery, and he has stepped off the committee. And John Thompson, who is also a member of the Battery, has expressed interest. So we're excited to have him be appointed as the Next, Haywood Meadows Stewardship Committee member, / battery liaison.
Bill, you want to do a quick little motion on that?
Sure, I move that we appoint John Thompson of 221 Fairhaven Road for a term expiring May 31st, 2024 to the Haywood Meadows Stewardship Committee.
Second.
Thank you, Sarah. And the vote, Bill,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Nick,
Nick, aye.
and I'm an I as well. Great. And I think the last item under other business is the Concord 250 Permanent Memorials Subcommittee, CPA Letter of Support.
And I guess I'm are you here for a specific project?
Charles Legaspi, I'm the last on the list under administrative.
Well, why don't we can take,
approvals.
we can.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
do that.
Take
So
care.
you're not,
Do you want to come on up?
so you're not,
Come on up here.
why don't we do you now, so you're not, kicking the last bit of business here.
You don't have to stick around for all of this, but yeah.
Let's see.
Thank you.
Do you want to describe your proposal or would you like me to do that?
I have a handout for each of you.
Okay.
This is a follow-up to Will Holdings' site visit, and there's an email chain and pictures that Bert and Delia at least were copied on by Will. I don't know, and this is a follow-up to that. Would you like me to,
Sure, why don't you just give us an
Yeah, what's
overview of it? That'd be
going on here?
great.
did everyone get one?
I
Yes.
think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you? Anyway, I'll get right to the bottom line. The 3 pine trees that I want removed from my property are making a mess of my property and they're dangerous. It's really sad, but necessary to do this. I've lived at 2090 Main Street for over 40 years, about half my life now, I just realized. And I live there with my wife Leslie, and it's right on Route 62. I never really thought about the pine trees till about 6 years ago, and I think that's a pretty accurate number when large limbs started to fall. And about 4 years ago, I started getting sap on my car. So the detailing was more expensive. And this last year, the sap just poured out. And as far as the limbs, I've had at least 3 large limbs that were so big that I had to get out with a saw and cut them at least in half and maybe thirds before I could even dispose of them. And as far as the sap, the previous 3 years was pretty bad, but this year was just awful. And on the second sheet, you see the 7 areas that the sap has fallen on.
Yeah.
And so on the first chart, under sap, retaining the trees, of course, it's just going to get worse. And it truly is an eyesore, believe it or not. And of course, if I remove the trees, there's no more sap. And so on. I mean, I feel it's as bad enough that the property value could diminish. It certainly is not going to go up. Now, the cleanup is also getting worse too. Well, I should have pointed out earlier, the sap in the limbs coming down is getting progressively worse. And I hardly noticed it, 4 and 6 years ago. So I think the trees are probably getting old like me. So, they're starting to break down. So anyway, or maybe not. I'm not an arborist, but Will was out and took a look, so you can ask him. So under cleanup, there's also limbs and branches and cones and pine straw, and that's pretty bad after a high wind. I've picked up as many as 30 branches or small branches, and maybe another 30 pine cones. Yet 5 or 6 years ago, I'd hardly notice a pine cone. And now on one of the trees, you look up, there's just dozens of them, on one branch. In terms of the danger, Obviously, if one of the limbs fall on you, you could get hurt. But it's unlikely, but it could happen and has happened to people. So I had one limb fall on my hood of one of my cars. It didn't do much damage, but that's where it fell. And I mentioned the other three that fell from a different pine tree. In terms of the cost, if you don't approve this, two things will happen. It's sort of the reality of my situation. Well, I can do nothing, which will cost me nothing. And it'll just get worse and become more of an eyesore, and maybe the house would be hard to sell. I can't imagine a prospective buyer seeing all this sap all over the place they'd at least find it disconcerting. I probably wouldn't do that. I take pride in the property. If you've ever looked at my lawn, I'm kind of obsessive about it. And I pull up all the weeds, and it's a battle because I don't have any shade, but it usually looks pretty good. So I probably would spend some money. So if you look at the second chart, and you can see on the sap, like the driveway, it's pretty bad. There's a picture that shows that, and so on. It's 7 different areas. Some cases it's bad, some it's not so bad, but it's getting worse. So just as one example, for the driveway, if you don't approve the cutting of the trees, I know some people seal coat their driveway every year. They don't even have pine trees. They just like to do it. So that would cost me $250 a year. And so on. The detailing would be more expensive. I can paint the porch, so that won't cost anything. And I don't know what it costs to get it off the roof. I know one thing's for sure. I've researched this. I've tried home remedies. Sap is hard to get off of everything except glass. When a razor blade, it comes right off.
Yeah.
And I can't get it off of anything else. Maybe you can. I can't. So I don't know what all the costs are. I mean, I don't know how much it costs to clean up the roof. The back stairs and landing is concrete. Maybe I could put a layer on the landing, but I don't think I can do anything to the back stairs. Now, the guardrail belongs to the town.
Yeah, no, we understand that. That seems clear.
So, and the sidewalk is getting sap on it. I have a picture of that. You can see how bad it is on the guardrail.
Yeah.
That's definitely an eyesore,
Yeah.
by anybody's definition.
It definitely does seem like there's more.
Further down, there's another pine tree, which also has sap out on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the DPW, you or I could let them know about that.
Okay.
Uh,
So I think we
does seem-
understand that it's a real problem and nuisance, right? in terms
And
of that.
presumably you're before us because these are within 100 feet of wetlands,
So
or
they're
what's makes it in
um,
our jurisdiction?
They are within 100 feet,
Yeah.
and one of them is within the 50-foot.
Ah.
And I think the question really is just whether or not, I mean, they are mature, otherwise healthy trees. I mean, they may not be as healthy as they were, because maybe
I'm
that's,
sorry, could you speak? I don't hear too well.
I'm sorry. So they are mature, apparently healthy trees, although they may not be as healthy as they once were. And that might be why they're, creating a lot more sap. I think the question is whether or not there, any tree replacement would be warranted here, or if the commission is comfortable with just removing these trees.
It looks to me like all three are in proximity to each other, yes? They're
Yes.
right next to each
They're
other.
all in this
Yes.
picture.
Yeah.
So if you take out all three of those trees, I understand the desire not to have sap, you're creating a large gap in the
There's-
canopy. And so I guess the question that I would have is like, would you be willing to consider at least one tree replacement?
Maybe a
To sort of
deciduous.
build.
First of all, there's a lot of trees in
Yeah.
there. I mean, a lot of them aren't getting sunlight. I know you don't thin it out or anything like that, but the trees that are like right next to each other, I've got one behind my house that is intertwined somehow, but if
But
you
if we
want
could
trees,
put a non-sap tree, like
Well,
a
all
oak
those
or a maple. or
Caliber trees, I mean, who would pay for that? Me or the town or,
It would be the homeowner.
Yeah.
and how much are those?
Oh, I think you could plant a small sapling,
Two and a
right?
half inch caliber.
I mean, probably a few $100s.
Yeah, the 2-inch caliper, is that the right term?
2-inch caliper.
8 to 10 foot tree.
Yeah.
$200 a piece. I'd have no problem paying for that, certainly. But I'd recommend actually you put them somewhere else in Concord that they do more good. I mean, to put them 5 foot from another tree that's, you know, and it's not getting enough sunlight is sort of counterproductive.
But
mean,
it's
there
5
are-
feet from another tree inside the 50-foot.
Right.
It's doing a lot of good where it is because it's in proximity to wetlands. So all the trees that are within 50 feet of the wetlands are actually filtering.
Okay, well, I'll
Did
defer to
did we
the
have any
experts on
feedback,
this.
Celia, in regard to that? I mean, in terms of just density or trees or replacement trees or?
Not, I mean, we talked about it a little bit. Let me just pull up the,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
She's just pulling up
Oh, okay.
take a look at.
So you'd want the trees, the replacement trees to be in the conservation area, right?
In the same area where they're coming out, because, you know, that is the resource area we're trying to protect.
right.
So,
These birch trees, there's a lot of them, they grow like weeds. I mean, maybe we get a fir or something.
Oh, sure.
well, I mean, I think, you
Or
know,
deciduous, right?
some native species that you would like. So
Right.
something without sap, obviously.
They're gonna come out,
So those, that cluster right
right,
there,
and it's not,
one,
Yeah.
2, and 3.
yeah. Only up to about- Actually, this one. Yeah. This is the one by the street.
Right there, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
Looks
it
like
would
at
probably
least
be all.
4 trees there. Is there?
I think there's more.
Yeah, there's more, but he's talking about the 3.
Yeah, I know the 3 up front,
Will
yeah.
said the 4th tree was too far from my house.
Yep,
To worry about.
to worry about.
The wind, believe it or not, and I had trouble believing this, was blowing the sap as much as 30 feet.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, if you look at the pictures of my front porch, that's at least 30 foot from the.
Yeah.
From the furthest, or the closest point of the pine tree.
Mhm.
So Delia also looks like all deciduous trees around that cluster of pines right
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
So they were probably planted at one point, right? Or you don't know, okay, we don't really know.
Yeah,
But my question would be, so it would be appropriate to have more deciduous, a 1 or 2 more deciduous
Yeah.
trees
I
in
mean,
there.
I think if you're willing to just plant
A tree?
one deciduous, 2-inch caliper in this vicinity, I think that would be a good trade-off.
Any consideration for a snag?
Ironically, next to the pine
Ah,
is the street,
Okay.
there's a small fir tree, a Christmas tree, I call it,
Yeah.
that I've been watching grow for years.
Hmm.
And it's close. It's actually an asset. It's the opposite of eyesore.
Well, maybe you could consult with Bert and Delia about what kind of tree to put in there. Okay,
Sure, I'm
Okay.
very flexible on what kind of tree. I'm just recommending something other than a birch.
oh, yeah,
Oh, sure.
yeah, oh, yeah, other than.
There's plenty of choices out there.
Plenty of out there.
An oak would be
An oak
ideal.
would be perfect.
Yeah,
Nice white oak or.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could.
Okay, so the commission's good with that?
Yep, yep.
Tree replacement, remove the 3 problematic trees. And
Replace
consult
it
with
with-
staff on the tree replacement.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Well, thank you.
We agree.
Was that
Yeah.
5 eyes? Did I?
Yeah, 5 eyes.
Yes,
Yes, it is.
So I can call the tree person tomorrow and, did you send me
Yes.
something in writing or?
I think
You
if you
don't need
just, if you wanted to check in with staff in terms of just,
you're all
Basic
set.
steps.
You're
You're
good to
good.
go.
thank you very much for the
I
discussion.
will
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah,
You
thanks.
did a good job.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Have a nice evening.
You too.
All right, so we'll fall back on the Concord 250. Permanent Memorial Subcommittee CPA letter of support.
Mhm.
So this-
Sorry, I got that out to you so late. I don't know if people had a chance to review it.
Yeah.
I don't know, you're fine.
Okay,
Yeah, like-
Yep.
Can I make a comment on it?
yes,
So-
please.
The memorial, is it committee or subcommittee? The,
Subcommittee.
yeah. The memorial subcommittee is responsible for like planning events around, the 250th. But they have asked for some help or some support. So I actually am part of I don't know if it's a subcommittee, Concord Friends of Trees. And we are actually, so I'm one of the people who are actually trying to identify locations
Ah.
for the 250
awesome.
trees
Great,
Yeah.
great.
Yep.
that, you know, will
Great.
be financed through this subcommittee, but like there's 8 or 10 of us and we're meeting once a month if anybody wants to join. And I have charts, little maps of all of the village centers, all of the schools. So if you have thoughts on
Mm.
places
that's
where
good.
trees could go,
Yep.
or the
Fantastic.
kinds of species, you know, Henry Moss, Krista Collins is sort of heading this group, but Henry Moss has written a really nice mission for like why we're focusing on
Great.
trees as a
That's
memorial.
great.
And I won't be able to make it Friday. Friday is our next meeting at the library down in the basement. But I strongly support sending a letter to us saying this is a great idea, because I think it's going to be a really nice way to
Yeah.
honor the 250th with 250
I,
trees.
I agree.
Yes.
I would
Great
love to
idea.
attend one if my schedule allows, because I'm actually the representative of this on the CPA.
Oh,
Huh.
right. Yeah.
It was my first choice one. to
Well, we can
support.
try and move the meetings to the evening, but right now they're like 1:30 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Fridays, the third Friday of
Well, that
the.
might work for me.
but-
It
okay.
Depends on the day. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we can.
Okay,
Well,
Great.
yeah,
Thank you.
definitely.
Any, this was written very quickly, so if there's any comments that revisions.
Seemed good to the point and captured a lot.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, on the second line, it says to plant 250, but it doesn't say what. Trees.
Thank you.
Good catch.
Yeah,
Go.
Thank you.
Fantastic. All right, we're good? All right. So
250 living monuments.
there we go.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Well, that sounds better.
Yeah.
Why don't we say that?
to the trees. I can share with you Henry Moss's text, which is amazing.
Huh.
You've done a really nice job.
Oh, yes, just the G. Perfect. Great, good suggestion.
Thanks for doing
Full
that.
stop missing.
Will they be marked in some way? Did we talk about that? A
Yeah.
little something or?
There's been some discussion, but I don't think so. I think
It's a
that
lot, yeah.
there may be, you know, 1 or 2 iconic locations
Yeah,
where
yeah.
they would be marked to recognize that 250 are planted throughout, but certainly not all 250.
What about, will there be a map anywhere that people know where they are?
Well, we're creating maps of where,
Okay.
you know, the proposed locations,
That would
so
help
that
with-
would be.
That would
something
help
of it,
with
yeah.
the
Yeah.
high school tree project every year.
Yep, we are looking at the schools as well.
Okay.
I've created some maps of all of the schools, and Henry's particularly focused on 9 Acre Corner, the
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
the road
Yeah.
heading in there.
And is that map being updated, Delia? I talked about this before, whatever, what is it? All the tree maps of, the tree map of Concord? You must know.
Yeah, the
about this.
2017 shade tree.
Well, so
report.
they're on the, so I've actually printed out for all of the village centers, little map showing all of the infrastructure so that we can, you know, identify locations that don't have sewer lines or
Yeah.
power lines and things like that. But you can, on the town GIS, you can also put all the shade trees.
You can.
They're already,
They're already, there. Is that,
in the
is that the same as the one I'm talking about? There's this, website that the town has sponsored in the past. What's it called? I don't remember. Where all the trees, it was done by an arborist company.
Davy, or I think it was Davy
Yeah.
or Marquis, or.
Davy Tree Survey.
Oh, is that what you're talking about? You have that?
Well, I
It's on the
know that
website. It's,
It's on the website?
Yeah.
yep,
there is a tree survey that
Tree
was done by
survey.
Davy.
Oh,
Yep.
Davy, and it has all the trees in town, all public trees in town.
all shade trees.
Well, they,
All shade, just shade trees?
All public, so those, a public shade tree is identified by being within the town's right of way.
Okay.
So that's,
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. You're
yeah,
right.
yeah.
But I noticed all the trees in the cemetery in Sleepy Hollow are identified.
Are they? Okay,
Yeah.
so that's more than
Hmm.
public shade trees.
yeah, I mean, Davy did a few things in their report, but I think my understanding is they did a survey or a census. It's not like just identifying the public shade trees. They also did an actual count of how many public trees, or they didn't do private land.
Not private
Right,
land.
but-
but they probably just did public trees on CPW lands. They didn't do it on our NRC lands.
Oh, no, that would be
You know.
impossible.
Well, but I thought they did some sort of like statistical, you know, analysis and estimated how many trees. No, not on NRC land.
I
don't know. I
could
did-
drill
did-
down into that a
They
little
do
bit.
Have something, well, I'm not sure about natural resources land, But they do have on their thing, like they've identified 23,000 trees.
Wow.
In the town.
Mm.
And they
Yeah.
supposedly they say the health of the trees too,
Yeah.
but this is a couple of years old.
Right, and they did want to update it, and I don't know where that stands.
Okay. Tree keeper, that's what it's called.
Tree keeper.
Ah,
Tree keeper and system.
okay. Thanks for
Yeah,
that.
cool.
And then administrative approvals.
Yes, so at Haywood Meadow, we are continuing to do some cleanup along that Walden Street, Haywood Street intersection. So there are 2 dead trees and then a couple of a small elm and a catalpa that I'd like to have Will just kind of take down to clean it up a little bit.
Mhm.
Okay.
Would we replace it with another tree or is it?
I don't think we
the
need to.
parcel overstocked?
We,
Spot for you.
yeah, well, that
Could we
The-
consider?
not there, because the reason is to improve the sight lines.
Ah,
Oh, yeah.
You know, that slip lane that comes
Yep,
off Walden
yep,
Street onto
yep.
Haywood, that's where the catalpa is, then the Haywood, the elm is just kind of in a mass of other, you know, we're trying to improve, I forget what it is now, if it's an oak, but we want to sort of give it a little bit more room.
Mm.
Well, if there's another spot somewhere
Yeah.
in Haywood Meadow that maybe, you know, that we could do a oak or something that would,
We can definitely look at that.
Oh, that'd be
Yeah.
nice.
maybe
Uh,
that's where we actually recognize the
yeah,
all
Mhm.
250.
That'd be awesome, yeah.
I know, I mean, the apples
well,
are all dying.
We should,
but-
we should discuss,
But
yeah.
yeah, the committee is
Yeah.
typically not in favor of planting more trees in the meadow, but I think knowing that others are sort of not long for this world. I
Failing,
think- Yeah,
yeah.
I think I'm happy to talk with them about it. And ultimately, it's an NRC decision. It's, you know, NRC property.
Okay.
It is a meadow.
Yeah,
But
Oh, I
yeah,
suppose so.
primarily, yeah.
that's, but there's balances, so we can look at that. Anderson 1711 Lowell Road, there's one dead tree and an elm that's very close to the property owner's house. It's right on the edge of the 100-foot buffer zone,
Mhm.
and so we did ask him about snags, and he's not interested. It's
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
it's close to his house.
Mhm.
And he felt like there were a lot of snags in the woods, and I
Mhm.
think that's fine. In Concord Green, they have some water erosion issues that they're going to mitigate by putting up some curbing on the existing pavement in front of 2 buildings. So that was not a huge,
No net effect.
no. And that is it. Few things to sign.
You got Lagos, 29th? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so,
All right.
Also,
yeah, we can close, but I,
okay, so if you are.
We are
Okay,
good.
Are we good?
We are adjourned.
Yeah. Okay. Karen, would you do me a
Short-term
favor?
memory.
and,
Go for test.
but I have a question about tree removals. Do we have a